What an idiot he thinks he is paying for the grandkids' college, but in reality, those $300,000 are for our trip to Europe. Those words came out of my daughter-in-law's mouth from the other side of the door. My son laughed. My son, the boy I raised alone for years, the man to whom I gave everything, responded, "It is okay, babe, do not delay the transfer of assets. We still have to sell her house and the land." At that moment, standing in front of the door of their home with a container of food that I had prepared with so much love, I understood that I had just handed over $300,000, my life savings, to two scammers. And the worst of all is that one of them carried my blood. But let me tell you how I got here, because no one wakes up one day discovering that their own family plans to strip you of everything. These things happen slowly with a smile, here a lie there, small signs that you ignore because love blinds you. My name is Rose, and I am 66 years old. During the last 3 years, I have lived alone in this house that I built together with my late husband. He passed away, leaving me this home, 2 lots of land in town that we bought with sacrifice, and some savings that I kept for decades working as a seamstress. I was not a millionaire, but I had enough to live with dignity and help my family when they needed it. My son Michael was always the center of my universe. I raised him practically alone because my husband worked day and night to give us a better life. I sewed wedding dresses, fixed clothes, and hemmed pants until the early hours of the morning while Michael slept in the back room. Every stitch carried a dream, that he would study, that he would have opportunities, that he would never lack anything. And I achieved it. Michael graduated, got a good job, married Jessica 8 years ago, and gave me 2 beautiful grandchildren. At first, Jessica seemed like an angel fallen from the sky, sweet, attentive, always with a perfect smile and kind words. "Dear mother-in-law," she would tell me while hugging me with that expensive perfume she used. On Sundays, they came to have lunch. The children ran around the yard, and I felt complete, surrounded by the family I loved so much. I cooked their favorite dishes, baked the orange cake that Michael had loved since he was a child, and listened to their stories about work and daily problems. It was my routine, my happiness, my reason for existing after becoming a widow. But things began to change subtly, like when a fine fabric starts to fray at the edges. First came the casual comments. Jessica would look at my living room and say, "Mother-in-law, this house is so big for you alone, do you not feel lost here? Or when I prepared food, 'Oh, how nice. You still cook in that traditional way. I do everything in the convection oven now.'" Small phrases that sounded innocent but carried a hidden edge like needles hidden in cotton. Then the comparisons began. My friend Patricia's mom moved to a small apartment and says it is much more practical. She does not have to clean so much anymore. "Oh, did you know that my cousin's mother-in-law sold her big house and with that money started a business for her children? How generous, right?" Each comment was a poisoned seed planted with care in my head, making me feel that perhaps I was selfish for keeping this property, that perhaps I should do more for them. Michael also changed. The Sunday visits became bi-weekly, then monthly. When I called on the phone, his answers were short and distracted. "Yes, Mom." "Uh-huh." "Okay. I will call you later. I am busy." Busy. That word became his answer for everything. Busy to visit me. Busy to bring the children to see me. Busy to sit with me and have a coffee like we used to do. I justified everything, thinking it was normal that young people have their lives, their responsibilities, their own world. One afternoon, while I was sewing a lavender dress for a client's niece's Sweet 16, Jessica arrived without warning. She wore that smile that was already starting to seem too perfect to me, too practiced. "Mother-in-law, I need to talk to you about something important." She sat on the sofa, crossed her legs, and sighed as if she were carrying the weight of the world. "Michael and I are going through a difficult time financially. The company where he works is making cuts, and we do not know if they are going to fire him. We need to make some urgent repairs to the house because there is a leak that is ruining everything." My mother's heart squeezed. "How much do you need?" I asked without thinking twice. "About $5,000, she replied, looking down as if ashamed. The next day I went to the bank and transferred the money. She hugged me, called me her savior, and promised to return it soon. She never did, and I never asked for it because that is what mothers are for, right? To support, to help, to give without expecting anything in return. 2 months later, it was Michael who arrived with another story. They needed money for the children's school because the tuition had increased. Another $4,000 that left my account without hesitation. Then came Jessica's medical expenses, a supposed minor operation that cost $3,000 more. Then the car that broke down the credit card debts, the repair of the refrigerator. Every month, there was a new emergency, a new reason to ask me for help. I gave and gave, because that is how I was taught, because I believed I was fulfilling my role as a mother and grandmother. Meanwhile, my savings began to thin out like my patience every time I called, and no one answered. When I went to visit them without warning, there was always an excuse not to let me in. They were going out. They had visitors, the children were sick. The door of their house became an increasingly high wall between us. One night my neighbor Angela came to have tea with me. We had known each other for 20 years, and she was always direct with no filter. "Rose, forgive me for meddling where I am not called, but I saw your daughter-in-law the other day at the mall. She was carrying bags from very expensive stores, debuting a designer purse, and laughing with her friends while they drank coffee in that new place where a cup costs $15. I remained silent, feeling something twisting in my stomach. "Maybe she did well this month," I replied weakly. Angela looked at me with that mixture of pity and concern that you never want to see in the eyes of a friend. The days following that conversation with Angela were strange. I started to notice things I ignored before, details that my motherly love had hidden under layers of justifications. When Michael finally called me after 2 weeks of silence, his voice sounded rushed and mechanical, like reading a script. "Hello, Mom. How are you?" "Everything is fine over here. The kids send their greetings. Hey, I have to hang up. We are leaving." Leaving. Always busy, always in a hurry to end the call with me. I tried to visit them one Sunday like in the old days. I prepared that orange cake that Michael liked so much. I put on my pearl-colored dress, which made me feel presentable, and I rang the doorbell of their house with a smile on my face. Jessica opened the door just a crack. Her expression changed when she saw me. "Oh, mother-in-law, what a surprise. We were just leaving. We have a family lunch." The irony hit me like a slap. I was their family, and I was on the wrong side of that door. "Are the children there?" I asked, trying to look inside. "They are with my parents. They took them yesterday." Lie. I could hear children's laughter inside the house. I walked away slowly down that street where I had played so many times with my grandchildren, feeling how each step weighed more than the previous one. Something was not right. Something had changed, and I had been too naive, too trusting, too blind to see it. That night, I could not sleep. I stared at the ceiling of my room, reviewing every conversation, every request for money, every excuse to keep me away. The pieces were beginning to form an image I did not want to see. The next morning, Jessica called me with that sweet voice that no longer convinced me. "Dear mother-in-law, excuse him for yesterday. We were very stressed. Can we go visit you this afternoon? Michael wants to talk to you about something important." My heart jumped between hope and fear. Maybe they had realized their coldness. Maybe they were coming to apologize, to reconnect. How foolish I was to think that. They arrived at 4 in the afternoon. Michael carried a folder under his arm, and that forced smile I had seen lately. Jessica wore an ivory dress that must have cost more than $300, new shoes, and that perfume that impregnated everything in its path. They sat in my living room, rejected the coffee I offered, and Michael opened the folder on the table. "Mom, we need to talk about something serious. It is about the children's future." His tone was grave and prepared. Times are changing, and education is getting more expensive. We want to ensure that the children have the best education possible, that they can go to college and have opportunities that we did not have. I nodded, not yet understanding where all this was going. "We have been researching and found an incredible opportunity. There is an educational investment trust that guarantees full payment of college for both children, including master's degrees if they wish." Jessica leaned forward. Her eyes shone in a way that I now recognize as greed, disguised as maternal concern. It is a unique investment, mother-in-law. It is only available this month, and we need to act fast. Other grandparents are already securing their grandchildren's future. You have always said they are your priority, right? How much does it cost? I asked, feeling my throat close up. Michael took some papers out of the folder documents full of numbers and small print that I could barely read without my glasses. $300,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but think about it. Mom, it is your grandchildren's future. It is the peace of mind of knowing that they will have guaranteed education, that they will never lack that opportunity. You have those savings that Dad left that you have kept all these years. What better use could you give them than to ensure the education of your own grandchildren? The world stopped for a moment. $300,000. Practically everything I had saved. The result of 35 years of work, of sleepless nights, sowing of sacrifices of every dollar, saved with discipline. My husband and I had dreamed of that money as our safety cushion, the inheritance I would one day leave to Michael, the backup for any medical emergency in my old age. It is a lot of money, I murmured. Jessica immediately took my hand with that rehearsed softness. We know, mother-in-law, and believe me, we would not ask you this if it were not absolutely necessary, if it were not for the good of your grandchildren. Think of them, of their future. You have this house, you have the land, you will not lack anything, and we will be here to take care of you always. We are your family. Michael nodded. His expression was serious, almost urgent. Mom, this opportunity closes in 3 days. Afterward, it will no longer be available, and we will lose the chance to secure all this. The children will thank you all their lives. You are going to be the grandmother who gave them the opportunity to succeed, to not have to worry about paying for expensive universities. I looked at my son, that man who had grown up before my eyes, and I wanted to see the boy who used to hug me and tell me I was the best mom in the world. I wanted to believe that this was real, that they were genuinely thinking about the welfare of my grandchildren. Can I see the documents calmly? I asked. Michael's expression changed subtly. A flash of impatience crossed his face. Sure, Mom, but remember that time is running out. We cannot lose this opportunity over unnecessary doubts. That night I tried to read the documents. They were pages and pages of legal terms that I did not fully understand. I called Robert, a lawyer friend of the family who had helped my husband in life. Robert, could you check something for me? I explained the situation over the phone. There was a long silence on the other end. Rose is your son, asking you for $300,000 for an educational trust. Can you send me the documents by photo? I took pictures of every page and sent them to him by text. 20 minutes later, Robert called me. His voice sounded worried. Rose, these documents are very generic. They do not clearly specify the institution. There are no real guarantees. The clauses are vague. I recommend that you do not do anything hasty. Give me a few days to investigate further. But I did not have days. Michael had been clear. 3 days, or the opportunity was lost. The next morning, Michael arrived early at my house. He came alone this time. Did you think about it, Mom? We need to make the transfer today. His tone was drier, less affectionate. Robert is reviewing the documents, I told him. His face tensed up. Robert, why did you involve Robert in this? It is a family matter. Mom, do you not trust me? Do you not trust your own son? His words pierced me like knives. Guilt began to climb up my chest. What kind of mother was I to doubt my son? It is not that I do not trust you, Michael. It is just that it is a lot of money and I want to be sure. He got up from the armchair abruptly. You know what, Mom? Forget it. If you do not trust us, if you prefer to listen to strangers rather than your own family, then you do not deserve to be part of this. The children will grow up knowing that their grandmother could help them and decided to be selfish. Selfish. That word echoed in my head for hours after he left, slamming the door. I spent that whole night awake, tossing and turning in bed, while the word selfish resonated in my mind like an endless echo. Was I selfish for wanting to protect my life savings? Was I selfish for asking for advice before handing over $300,000? Guilt was eating me alive. I thought of my grandchildren, of their innocent faces, of everything they deserved. If I did not help them, who would? Michael was right about something. I had this house, I had the land. I was not going to starve. But something inside me, a little voice I tried to ignore, told me that something was not right. At 7 a.m., my phone rang. It was Jessica. "Good morning, mother-in-law. Excuse me for calling you so early, but I need to talk to you. Michael is very hurt. Last night he could not sleep thinking that you distrust him. As a mother, you must understand what it means when your own mom does not believe in you." Her voice sounded soft, almost maternal, but there was something calculated in every word. I come from a very united family, where we all support each other without hesitation. My grandmother always said that family comes first, that money comes and goes, but blood remains. I felt small, ashamed. It is not that I distrust, I tried to explain. It is just that Robert advised me. Jessica interrupted me with a sigh. "Robert is a stranger, mother-in-law. We are your family. Besides, does it not seem suspicious to you that a lawyer tells you not to invest in your grandchildren's education? Maybe he has other interests. You know how these professionals are always looking to charge for their services." Her words sowed doubts about Robert, about my own instincts about everything. "Think about it carefully," continued Jessica. "This opportunity closes tomorrow. If we lose it, your grandchildren are going to have to go into debt all their lives to be able to study. They are going to work paying student loans for decades. Is that what you want for them? You have the power to change their lives right now." I hung up, feeling dizzy, confused, trapped between the love for my grandchildren and that sense of alarm I could not silence. I looked around my living room, the photos of Michael on the wall from when he was a baby to his wedding, the images of my grandchildren on their birthdays. This was my family. This was the people I had raised, fed, loved unconditionally. How could I doubt them? That afternoon, I called Michael. "It is okay, son. I will make the transfer." The silence on the other side lasted a few eternal seconds. Then his voice sounded relieved, almost exalted. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you. You are not going to regret it. The children are going to be so grateful. I am going there right now to help you with the process." In less than 30 minutes, he was at my door with his laptop and all the documents. We sat in the dining room where we had shared family lunches so many times. Michael opened his computer and started guiding me step by step. "First, you need to enter your online banking." His fingers moved fast over the keyboard. "Give me your username and password to speed this up." Something in me resisted. "I prefer to do it myself," I said, taking the laptop. I saw a flash of annoyance in his eyes, but he nodded. I entered my bank account and saw the number that had cost me so much to accumulate. $305,000. There was the result of 35 years of early mornings, needles in my fingers, eyes tired from sewing under dim light, every sacrifice converted into numbers on a screen. Michael dictated a bank account number for me to make the transfer. "Whose account is this?" I asked. "It is the investment trust's account, Mom. That is how it works. They receive the money and then send you all the official documentation." My hands were trembling over the keyboard. "Do it, Mom. You are one click away from securing your grandchildren's future." I closed my eyes and pressed confirm. $300,000 disappeared from my account in a second. Michael smiled broadly and hugged me. "You are the best mom in the world. The kids are going to be so happy when they find out." But while he hugged me, I did not feel warmth. I felt a frozen emptiness in my stomach. During the following days, I waited for the documentation Michael had promised. "It is almost there, Mom." "These processes take time," he told me every time I asked. But what I really noticed was the drastic change in his behavior. The phone calls that were scarce before were now non-existent. When I dialed, it went straight to voicemail. The messages I sent remained unanswered for hours, sometimes days. A week after the transfer, I decided to visit them without warning. I needed to see my grandchildren, hug them, feel that I had done the right thing. I rang the doorbell several times. I heard movement inside voices that suddenly went silent. Finally, Jessica opened the door with an expression that no longer tried to hide her annoyance. "Mother-in-law, it is not a good time. The children are doing homework and cannot be distracted. I just want to say hello to them for 5 minutes," I pleaded. "Not today. Maybe another day. We will let you know." And she closed the door in my face. I stood there feeling the tears starting to burn my eyes. Something was terribly wrong. I knew it in every fiber of my being. but it was already too late. The money was gone. I walked back home slowly. Every step weighed on me as if I were carrying stones. Angela saw me from her window and came out to meet me. "Rose, are you okay?" "You look pale." I could not contain myself anymore and told her everything. The transfer, the promises, the constant rejection. Angela hugged me while I cried on her shoulder. "Oh, my friend, I have to tell you something I did not want to mention before." My heart stopped. I saw Jessica 2 days ago at a travel agency downtown. She was with Michael looking at packages for Europe. I heard when she told the people they wanted something exclusive, luxury for 2 people for 3 months. Europe. 3 months. Luxury. The pieces began to fit together in a horrible way. "But they said it was for the children's university," I murmured. Angela looked at me with sadness. "Rose, I think you should investigate more about that investment trust." That night I called Robert and told him I had made the transfer despite his warnings. The silence on the other end was deafening. "Rose, give me the account number where you sent the money. I am going to investigate." I passed him all the data. 2 hours later, Robert called me back. His voice sounded serious, worried. "Rose, that bank account belongs to Michael. There is no investment trust. You transferred $300 or $1,000 directly to your son's personal account. The world collapsed around me. There was no fund. There was no educational investment. There was nothing except my son and daughter-in-law stealing my life savings. What do I do, Robert?" My voice was barely a whisper. "For now, nothing. We need proof of fraud if we want to recover that money. Did you keep the documents they gave you?" I had them, but they were so vague that they would probably be useless. The following days were torture. I kept calling Michael without getting an answer. The messages were left unread but unanswered. Finally, after almost 2 weeks, Jessica replied with a cold message. "Mother-in-law Michael is very busy with work. The kids are fine. When we have free time, we will visit you. Regards." They did not even bother to maintain the charade. One afternoon, desperate, I went to their house again. This time I did not ring the doorbell. I stayed outside waiting, watching. I saw when Michael arrived from work driving a new car, one of those sports models that cost more than $50,000. I saw him enter the house carrying bags from expensive stores. The laughter I heard from outside broke my heart. They were celebrating. They were happy. With my money. I approached the door to knock when I heard raised voices. I froze. "I do not understand why you do not answer your mom's calls," I heard Michael say. Jessica's voice responded clear and strong. "Because she already served her purpose. Babe, we already have the money. Now only the rest is missing. The rest." My heart beat so fast I thought I was going to faint. I remained paralyzed on the other side of that door, holding my breath, praying they could not hear the beats of my heart that resounded in my ears like war drums. Jessica's voice continued now, clearer, crueler. "What an idiot he thinks he is paying for the grandkids' college, but in reality those $300,000 are for our trip to Europe." I heard my son's laughter. My son. The boy I nursed, raised, loved with every cell of my body. His laughter was genuine, amused, as if he had just heard the best joke in the world. "It is okay, babe. Do not delay the transfer of assets. We still have to sell her house and the land." Michael replied with a lightness that pierced me like a rusty knife. My mind tried to process what I was listening to, but it was as if the words arrived in a foreign language. "Transfer of assets. Sell my house. The land my husband and I bought with decades of effort. I already spoke to the lawyer." Michael continued. "He told me the easiest thing is to convince her to donate everything to us while alive. That way we avoid inheritance taxes and can sell everything faster. With what we get from the house and the land, plus the $300,000, we are going to have more than $500,000. Imagine Jessica, $500,000. We can buy that beach house you like, travel live well." Jessica let out a loud laugh. "Your mom is so naive that she will believe anything we tell her. We can tell her we want to invest in a family business, that we need the properties as collateral for a loan. Whatever. She signs whatever you put in front of her just to make you happy." The words fell on me like drops of acid, burning every illusion I had had about my family. "The only thing that worries me is that she talked to that nosy lawyer," said Michael. "What if he turns her against us?" Jessica snorted with contempt. "Please, she is an old woman. She is already senile. Besides, we already put enough guilt in her head. She feels so bad for having doubted you that now she will do anything to make up for it. Reverse psychology always works with these emotional people. I felt my legs starting to tremble. I leaned against the wall, trying not to make noise, not to give away my presence. Every word was a revelation more painful than the previous one. Everything had been a lie. Every hug, every "I love you, Mom," every promise, everything calculated, planned, executed with surgical precision to strip me of everything I had, and if she refuses to sign, Jessica asked. Michael laughed with a confidence that froze my blood. She is not going to refuse. She is my mother. All her life she has lived to please me. Besides, we are going to tell her it is for the children's welfare that we want to ensure their future. That old woman would do anything for those brats. Brats. He called his own children brats, the grandchildren she supposedly loved so much. Perfect. The next week, we tell her that the education trust documentation arrived, and while we are at it, we bring her the donation papers. We do everything the same day, so she does not have time to think too much. Jessica planned with a coldness that made me understand this woman was the true brain behind everything. You are brilliant. Babe, that is why I love you, Michael said. I heard sounds of kisses, complicit laughter. Meanwhile, I was on the other side of the door, with my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces, still holding the container with the food I had prepared for them. Food made with love for people who saw me as a source of money, as an obstacle between them and wealth. I do not know how long I stood there in shock, processing the magnitude of the betrayal. Finally, my legs reacted, and I started walking backward, moving away from that door, from that house, from that life I thought I had. I walked down the porch stairs carefully, feeling that at any moment I was going to crumble. I reached the street and kept walking aimlessly, tears running down my cheeks uncontrollably. I do not remember how I got to Angela's house. I only remember ringing her doorbell, and when she opened, I collapsed completely. I cried like I had not cried even when my husband died, because this betrayal hurt differently. It was a pain that came from within, from the place where you keep your faith in the people you love. Angela hugged me, took me to her living room, made me tea, and waited patiently for me to be able to speak. When finally I could articulate words, I told her everything. Every phrase I had heard, every detail of the macabre plan Michael and Jessica had woven. Angela listened with a mixture of horror and indignation growing on her face. "Those bastards," she murmured, clenching her fists. "Rose, you have to report them. This is fraud. It is abuse of trust. They are criminals." But I could not think clearly. My mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions: pain, rage, disbelief, shame. How had I been so blind? How did I not see the signs? All the pieces fit now with brutal clarity. The increasingly scarce visits, the constant requests for money, the artificial urgency, the emotional manipulation. I had been the perfect victim, a loving, generous, trusting, and lonely mother. "You need to call Robert right now," insisted Angela. "You need to protect what you have left before they execute the next step of their plan." She was right. If I did not act fast, I was going to lose everything. My house, my land, my dignity. Robert answered on the second ring. I explained between sobs what I had heard. The silence that followed was so heavy I thought the call had been cut off. "Rose, this is very serious," Robert finally said with a serious voice. "What you are describing to me is a clear case of fraud and conspiracy, but we need concrete proof. Do you have any way to record those conversations? I had nothing. It was my word against theirs. Tomorrow, first thing, come to my office. We are going to take immediate legal measures to protect your properties. I am going to put a legal lock on the house and the land so that no one can do anything with them without your physical presence and mine." That night, I did not sleep. I stayed sitting in Angela's armchair, staring into the void, reviewing every moment of the last months. Every sign I ignored, every lie I believed, every manipulation I did not see. I felt stupid, used, betrayed in the worst possible way. But under all that pain, something else was beginning to grow, a spark of rage, of indignation, of need for justice. At 6 a.m, I was already awake. Angela made me breakfast, but I could not eat anything. My stomach was closed, my throat tight. "You have to be strong now," she told me, taking my hand. "Not for you, but to give them the lesson they deserve. No one can do this and get away with it. No one." Her words ignited something inside me. She was right. I could not let myself be defeated. I could not let them steal everything from me without fighting. At 9 o'clock sharp, I was at Robert's office. He already had several documents prepared. "First, we are going to make a formal statement of what you heard. Second, I am going to register a legal impediment on all your properties. Third, we are going to check your bank accounts and change all your passwords and access. Fourth, we are going to explore legal options to recover the $300,000. I signed papers for hours. Every signature was an act of resistance, a refusal to be the passive victim they expected. Robert was clear with me. Recovering the money is going to be difficult. They can claim it was a gift, a voluntary donation. But if we manage to prove fraud through deceit, we have a chance. The most important thing now is that you protect what you have left." I left that office feeling different. I was still hurt, still betrayed, but I no longer felt powerless. I had a plan. I had legal protection. And I had something more important. I had clarity about who the people I called family really were. During the next 3 days, I dedicated myself to preparing for what was coming. Robert explained to me that we needed solid evidence if we wanted to have any chance of recovering my money and preventing Michael and Jessica from continuing with their plan. What you heard is enough to alert us. But in a court, we need something tangible. Audio, messages, documents, something that proves without a doubt that there was an intent to deceive you. He explained while we reviewed options. Angela, who had become my accomplice and unconditional support, had an idea. "Rose, what if you make them talk again, but this time with your phone recording?" The idea terrified and excited me at the same time. Could I do it? Could I face him knowing what I knew, feigning ignorance while recording every incriminating word that came out of their mouths? Robert nodded thoughtfully. "It is risky, but it is our best option. You need them to confess their plan themselves, that they talk about the money, the supposed university, the plan to keep your properties. If you achieve that, we have a solid case." He taught me how to use the recorder on my phone, how to position it to capture the audio well, how to ask questions that would lead them to confess without them suspecting. I practiced for hours in front of the mirror. I had to be convincing. I had to seem like the same naive and trusting woman they believed I was. I could not let them see the rage that boiled under my skin, the pain that split my chest every time I thought of their betrayal. I had to become an actress in my own tragedy. On the 4th day, I took a deep breath and dialed Michael's number. He answered on the 3rd ring. His voice sounded surprised. "Mom?" "What happened?" I swallowed saliva and forced my voice to sound shaky, vulnerable. "Son, I need to see you. I am very worried. Weeks have passed and I have not received any document from that educational trust. Also, the bank called me asking about the large transfer I made. I am scared. I heard Michael consulting something with someone on the other side. Surely, Jessica." "Relax, Mom. It is normal for the bank to ask those questions for security, and the documents are almost ready. I had told you. Why do you not come tomorrow to the house and we talk calmly? Jessica prepared that tres leches dessert you like so much." The change in his tone was chilling. From cold and distant, he had gone to warm and welcoming in seconds. Pure acting. "Tomorrow, at what time?" I asked. "At 3 in the afternoon is perfect. The children are going to be in their activities, so we can talk quietly as adults." "Perfect. No innocent witnesses. I will be their son." "Thank you." I hung up and looked at Angela, who had been listening to the whole conversation. "You did very well," she told me, squeezing my hand. "Now only the hard part is missing." That night I could not sleep again. I reviewed over and over again what I was going to do. Robert had given me clear instructions. Arrive, activate the recorder discreetly, ask questions about the educational trust, mention my properties, let them talk. Scammers have huge egos, he had told me. If they think they already won, they will want to show off their plan. Let them talk. At 2:30 in the afternoon the next day, I got ready carefully. I put on my cream-colored dress, the one I always used for important occasions. I put on light makeup so as not to look like I had spent nights crying. I put my phone in my jacket pocket with the recorder already activated. Angela accompanied me to the door of my house. "You are brave, Rose. You are stronger than they ever imagined. Now go and show them who you really are." I drove to Michael's house with my hands sweating on the steering wheel. Every traffic light seemed to last an eternity. When I arrived, I saw the new car parked in the driveway, that bright red sports car they had bought with my money. I took 3 deep breaths before getting out of the car. I could do this. I had to do it. I rang the doorbell, and Jessica opened with a huge, false, perfectly calculated smile. "Dear mother-in-law, how good that you came. Come in, come in." She hugged me, and her expensive perfume made me dizzy. Everything about her screamed luxury: the new watch on her wrist, the diamond earrings, the silk blouse, all paid for with the savings I had accumulated sewing for decades. Michael was sitting in the living room, relaxed, with a glass of wine in his hand. "Hello, Mom. Sit down. Make yourself comfortable." I sat in the armchair in front of them, positioning myself so that the phone in my pocket could capture the audio well. Jessica brought coffee and that tres leches dessert Michael mentioned. The smell turned my stomach, but I smiled and accepted a piece. "Well, Mom, I know you are worried about the education trust documents," began Michael with a reassuring tone. "The truth is that there is a small administrative delay, but nothing to worry about. Everything is in order." I nodded, playing my role. "It is just that almost 3 weeks have passed, son, and it was so much money. $300,000. My life savings." Jessica intervened with that syrupy voice that I now recognized as completely false. "We know, mother-in-law, and believe me, we value your generosity very much. Your grandchildren are going to have the best education thanks to you. They are going to study at the best universities. They are going to have incredible opportunities." I let a few seconds pass before continuing with my next question, the most important one. "Son, I was thinking the other day, you are right that this house is too big for me alone. And I have been considering what you said a few months ago about making the transfer of assets while alive." I saw how Michael's eyes lit up like a predator watching its prey approach voluntarily. "Yes, you are considering it seriously. Yes, I lied, feeling dirty inside. It is just that I do not want you to have to deal with taxes and complicated paperwork when I am gone. If I transfer everything to you now, the house and the 2 lots, it would be easier for everyone. Right?" Jessica leaned forward, her excitement barely contained. "Exactly, mother-in-law. That is exactly what we have been saying. Besides, that way you can be calm knowing that everything is arranged." Michael got up and sat next to me on the sofa. "Mom, that would be the smartest thing. Look, I am going to be honest with you." My heart beat faster. Here it came. "Jessica and I have been looking at investment options. With the properties you transfer to us, we can get loans to invest in very profitable businesses. We are talking about multiplying that value in a few years, and all that would eventually be for the children, too." "What kind of businesses?" I asked, pretending to be interested. Jessica replied quickly. "Real estate mainly, buying properties, remodeling them, and selling them. It is a very profitable market right now. In fact, we already have buyers interested in one of your lots. We could sell it for more than $100,000. "You already have buyers?" I asked, pretending surprise. Michael nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, Mom. That is why it is important that we make the transfer soon. We cannot lose these opportunities. Imagine with the money from the sale of the land, and eventually this house added to what you already invested in the children, we are going to be very well off financially. And you do not have to worry about anything. We are going to take care of everything." "And where would I live if we sell the house?" I asked with a small voice. Jessica took my hand with that falseness that made me want to scream. "Oh, mother-in-law, do not worry about that. We can get you a small, comfortable apartment, something modern, easy to maintain, or you could even live with us for a season while we find something perfect for you." Michael continued. "Besides, Mom, let's be realistic. This house needs many repairs. The roof, the plumbing, the floors. It is going to require a big investment soon. It is better to sell it now that it is in relatively good condition and get a good price. We take care of the whole process. You just have to sign the papers. And the documents for the education trust, I insisted I needed everything recorded." Michael exchanged a quick glance with Jessica before answering. Well, Mom, being completely honest with you, we are using that money in a smarter way than we initially thought. My stomach contracted, but I kept my expression neutral, expectant. What do you mean, son? Jessica made herself comfortable in the armchair, crossed her legs, and with a smile that tried to be reassuring, explained. You see, mother-in-law, after analyzing the options well, we realized that investing that money directly in the children's education was not the most profitable. The children are still small, it is years until college. So we decided to use those $300,000 for investments that generate more money. So when the time comes to pay for college, we are going to have much more than the original $300,000. Exactly, added Michael with enthusiasm, completely oblivious that every word was being recorded on my phone. For example, we are planning a business trip to Europe. We are going to be 3 months visiting possible business partners, exploring markets, making important contacts. It is an investment in our professional future that will eventually benefit the whole family, including the children. It was hard for me to keep a straight face. Business trip. 3 months in Europe. They really believed that I was so stupid that I would swallow any lie they told me. Sounds interesting, I said with a trembling voice. And when do you plan to take that trip? Jessica practically glowed with excitement. In 2 months. We are already making the reservations. We are going to Paris, Rome, Barcelona, London. They are key cities for the businesses we want to develop. Michael got up and went to look for something in his study. He returned with a folder. In fact, Mom, taking advantage that you are here, I brought you the property transfer documents. If you sign them today, we can start the process immediately and have everything ready before our trip. He opened the folder and took out several papers. Look, here is the donation deed for the house. Here is the one for the 2 lots. We just need your signatures, and we are going to take them to the notary tomorrow ourselves. I took the documents with trembling hands. This time the trembling was real. There it was, everything in black and white, the complete transfer of my properties to Michael's name. If I signed those papers, I would be left with nothing, without a house, without land, without savings, without family. I would be a 66-year-old woman completely helpless thanks to the greed of her own son. It is a lot to process, I said, leaving the papers on the table. Jessica tensed slightly. What is there to process, mother-in-law? It is simple. You sign, we take care of everything, and you live calmly knowing that you are securing your family's future. There was a note of impatience in her voice that she could not hide completely. It is just that it is my house, I said with a broken voice, and this time I was not acting. It really hurt me. The house where I lived with my husband for 30 years. Where I raised Michael, where all my memories are. Michael sighed with exaggerated patience, as if he were dealing with a capricious child. Mom, I understand there is sentimental value, but you have to be practical. Memories are in your heart, not on the walls. And think about your grandchildren. Do you not want them to have a better future? Always the grandchildren. They always used those innocent children as a shield for their greed. Of course I want the best for them, I replied. It is just that I need time to think about it. To talk to Robert, maybe have him explain the legal and tax implications well. The reaction was immediate. Michael's face hardened. Again with Robert. Mom, that man does not have your best interests in mind. Lawyers only want to charge you for expensive consultations. Jessica intervened with more harshness than she had shown until now. Mother-in-law, with all due respect, you already gave us $300,000 without consulting anyone. Why do you want to talk to lawyers now? Do you not trust us anymore? Because if so, maybe you should tell us clearly. Her mask of a sweet daughter-in-law was starting to crack. It is not that I hurried to say keeping my role as an insecure and easily manipulated woman. I just want to be sure that everything is done correctly. It is just that the bank scared me when they called. They asked me so many questions about the transfer. They said it was unusual to transfer so much money at once. They even asked me if someone was forcing me to do it. I saw how Michael and Jessica exchanged worried looks. What did you tell them? Michael asked with a sharper tone. I told them the truth, that it was for my grandchildren's education. Did I do wrong? He breathed a sigh of relief. No, you did not do wrong. It is just that banks are very meticulous now with large transfers. But do not worry, everything is in order. They do not have to keep bothering you. I decided to press a little more. I needed more recorded confessions. Son, When exactly am I going to see the documents for the educational trust? It is just that almost a month has passed and nothing. Michael ran his hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration he had done since he was a child when confronted. Mom, I already explained to you that we are using that money differently. There are no educational trust documents because we decided to invest directly in businesses. It is better this way, believe me. But you told me it was specifically for a fund that guaranteed the children's college. I insisted with a soft but firm voice. You showed me papers, figures. You said it was a unique opportunity that closed in 3 days. Jessica let out a nervous laugh. Well, mother-in-law, things change. Plans adapt. The important thing is that money is being well used for everyone's benefit. Where exactly is that money now? I asked, looking him directly in the eyes. Michael shifted uncomfortably in his seat. It is in investments. Mom, in accounts and reservations for the business trip, in down payments for opportunities we are exploring. It is working for us, generating more value. Is that not what you wanted? That the grandchildren had a secured future? I stood up slowly from the armchair, feeling how every muscle in my body was tense. I need to go to the bathroom, I said. Excuse me a moment. Jessica pointed down the hall. Sure, mother-in-law, you know where it is. I walked to the bathroom, locked the door, and looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red, my face pale, but I had achieved what I came to do. I had the confession. I had the proof. I checked my phone discreetly. The recording was still active. I had captured everything. Their own voices admitting that there was no educational trust, that the money was being used for them, that they planned to sell my properties, that everything had been an elaborate lie. I took a deep breath, threw water on my face, and returned to the living room. You know what, son, I said with a firmer voice than I had used all afternoon. I think you are right. I am going to sign the papers. Both of their eyes lit up like Christmas trees. Seriously, Mom? Michael practically jumped from the armchair. Yes, but let me take them home to read them calmly tonight. Tomorrow I will go to the notary and sign them there directly. That way everything remains legal from the beginning. I could see the disappointment on their faces, but they nodded. It is okay, Mom. Take the documents. But please do it tomorrow. It is important that we do not lose more time. We are already behind on several things. I took the folder with the donation papers, the same ones they planned to use to strip me of everything. I will do it, son. Tomorrow, without fail. Jessica walked me to the door with renewed kindness. Thank you for understanding, mother-in-law. You will see that this is the best for everyone. In a few years you will thank us. I hugged her, and while I did, I thought of all the times this woman had manipulated me, lied to me, used me. See you tomorrow, I said with a smile that hurt my soul. I got in my car and drove to the corner. There I stopped, took out my phone, and stopped the recording. 52 minutes of audio. 52 minutes of confessions, plans, revealed, lies exposed. I had everything I needed. I dialed Robert's number with trembling hands. I have it, I said when he answered. I have the entire confession recorded. Excellent work. Rose, come to my office right now. We are going to listen to that recording and plan the next steps. This is over for them. I drove to his office, feeling a strange mixture of triumph and pain. I had obtained the evidence. I had protected my assets. But the price had been confirming that my son, the person I loved most in the world, was a scammer with no conscience willing to leave me on the street. Angela was waiting for me at Robert's office. When I entered, she hugged me tight. You did it, my friend. You were so brave. Robert ushered us in, and for the next 2 hours, we listened to the entire recording. Every word was like a dagger, but they were necessary daggers. It was the truth in its rawest and most painful form. This is pure gold in legal terms, said Robert with satisfaction. We have admission of fraud conspiracy to strip you of your assets. Confession that no educational trust existed. With this, we can file criminal charges if you want, and we can definitely sue for the return of the money. Criminal charges, I repeated, feeling my voice break. One thing was to protect myself, recover my money, prevent them from stealing more. Another very different thing was to send my own son to jail. Robert noticed my internal conflict and softened his tone. Rose, I understand he is your son, but what he and Jessica did is a serious crime. They not only lied to you, they scammed you systematically. This was premeditated, calculated, and if you do not stop it now, they are going to keep doing it, maybe not only with you, but with other people. Angela squeezed my hand. Friend, I know it hurts, but you have to think about yourself. They did not think about you when they planned to leave you with nothing. They did not think about you when they laughed at your trust. They did not think about you when they spent your money on luxuries while you eat alone in that empty house. Her words were harsh but true. Each one of them was a truth I needed to hear. Let me think about it tonight, I said finally. I need to process all this. I need to decide how far I am willing to go. Robert nodded understandingly. It is okay. But meanwhile, tomorrow, first thing, I am going to file a civil lawsuit for the return of the money. That is not negotiable. They stole $300,000 from you through deceit and fraud. That money has to return to your account. That night alone in my house, I sat in the dining room with a cup of tea that got cold without me taking a sip. I looked at the walls full of photographs of Michael at different stages of his life. The smiling baby in my arms, the proud boy on his first day of school, the teenager graduating the man at his wedding. At what moment did I lose that boy? Or did he never really exist? Was he always selfish, waiting for the opportunity to take advantage of me? My phone rang close to 11 at night. It was Michael. Hello, Mom. I was just calling to confirm that tomorrow you are going to the notary early. I already made an appointment for 10 in the morning. I will pick you up at 9:30. His voice sounded animated, anxious to close his masterstroke. Son, we need to talk, I said with a serious voice. There was a pause. About what, Mom? We already talked about everything this afternoon. I need you to come to my house tomorrow, you and Jessica, before going to the notary. There is something important I must tell you. I could feel his frustration through the phone. Mom, do not tell me you are regretting it again. We had already agreed on something. His tone was becoming sharp. I am not regretting it. I just need you to come at 9 in the morning. It is important. Okay, he replied with an exaggerated sigh. We will be there. But make it fast, because the appointment with the notary cannot be moved. He hung up without saying goodbye. Not even an I love you, Mom, like he used to do when he was a child. Or maybe he had never said it with sincerity, and I simply wanted to believe it. I called Robert. Tomorrow at 9 in the morning, they are coming to my house. I want to confront them with the evidence. I want them to know that I know everything. Robert remained silent for a few seconds. Are you sure we could handle this legally without direct confrontation? But I needed this. I needed to see their faces when they knew their plan had failed. I needed them to know I was not the stupid old woman they thought I was. I want you to be there, Robert, as my lawyer, and Angela is also going to be present as a witness. Robert accepted. It is okay. I will arrive at 8:30 to prepare everything. And Rose, you are going to need to be very strong. They are going to deny, they are going to cry, they are going to manipulate. You are going to have to stand firm. I knew it. I knew my son. I knew his tactics. But this time, I had something he did not expect. Irrefutable proof. The next morning I got up before dawn. I showered, dressed in my gray suit, the one I used for formal occasions. I applied makeup carefully to hide the dark circles from so many sleepless nights. I wanted to look strong, dignified, not like the shattered victim I felt inside. Robert arrived punctually at 8:30 with his briefcase full of legal documents. Angela arrived minutes later with coffee for everyone. We organized the living room like a small court. Robert sat in an armchair with his documents. I sat in my favorite chair, the one that had belonged to my husband. Angela remained standing near the window. At 9 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. I took a deep breath, got up, and opened the door. Michael and Jessica entered with forced smiles that froze when they saw Robert and Angela. "What is this?" "Mom," Michael asked with a tense voice. "Why is Robert here?" I invited them to sit with a gesture. Jessica made herself comfortable on the sofa with a cautious expression, her eyes moving between all of us, trying to decipher what was happening. Michael remained standing, clearly uncomfortable. "Sit down, son," I said with a firm voice. Something in my tone made him obey. "I called you because we have to talk about something very serious," I began. My hands were trembling slightly, but my voice remained steady. "Yesterday, when I went to your house, you told me many things. You talked to me about the educational trust which turned out not to exist. You talked to me about using my money for a trip to Europe. You explained your plans to sell my properties." I saw how both of them paled gradually. I also heard other things. I continued, taking out my phone. "For example, a few days ago, I went to visit you without warning. The door was ajar, and I heard a very interesting conversation." Jessica went rigid. Michael started shaking his head. "I do not know what you are talking about, Mom." I smiled without humor. "No, let me refresh your memory." I pressed play on my phone. Jessica's voice filled the room, clear and crisp. "What an idiot! He thinks he is paying for the grandkids' college. But in reality, those $300,000 are for our trip to Europe." Michael's laughter followed, his own voice saying, "It is okay, babe. Do not delay the transfer of assets. We still have to sell her house and the land." I saw how the color disappeared completely from their faces. Jessica opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Michael stood up abruptly. "Turn that off. You have no right to record private conversations." Robert intervened with a professional and cold voice. "Actually, in this jurisdiction, she does have the right. And there is more. Much more." I nodded and let yesterday's recording continue playing, where they themselves confessed their entire plan. When it finished, the silence in the room was so dense it could be cut with a knife. Jessica was the first to react. "Mother-in-law, this is a misunderstanding. We were joking. You know how couples are. Sometimes one says things that are not serious." Her voice sounded desperate, the mask of sweetness completely destroyed. "Joking," I repeated with disbelief. "Calling me an idiot is a joke. Planning to leave me homeless is a joke. Stealing my life savings is a joke." Michael approached me with his hands extended. "Mom, listen to me. Yes, maybe we said some incorrect things, but it was never our intention to hurt you. The money really is for the children. It is just that we are handling it differently." "Lies," I said, standing up to meet his height. "Every word that came out of your mouth was a lie. There is no educational trust. There never was. You deceived me. You manipulated me. You used your own children as an excuse to steal from me. And the worst of all is that you do not feel an ounce of remorse." I saw something in his eyes, then something I had never seen before, pure resentment, without filters. "Do you want to know the truth, Mom?" he said with a hard voice. "The truth is that we deserved that money. All my life I had to hear about your sacrifices, about how much you worked, about everything you did for me, as if I had asked you for it. I did not ask to be born. I did not ask you to kill yourself working. That was your decision. And now that you finally have money, what were you going to do with it? Leave it in the bank until you die. We can use it now. Enjoy it. Live well." His words hit me like physical slaps. This was not my son. Or maybe he was, and I never wanted to see it. Jessica tried to shut him up, but he continued, the floodgates of his true self finally open. "Besides, technically that money is mine anyway. It is my inheritance. I am just taking it early." Robert stood up. "Michael, I suggest you shut up right now. Every word you say is worsening your legal situation." Michael laughed bitterly. "Legal situation? She is my mother. She is not going to sue me. She does not have the guts." He looked at me with contempt. "All your life you have been weak, Mom. Always yielding, always pleasing, always looking for approval. That is why it was so easy. Those words were the catalyst I needed. All the doubt, all the guilt, all the pain I had been feeling transformed into something different. Absolute clarity. I looked at this man in front of me, this stranger who wore my son's face, and finally I saw him as he was. He was not Jessica's victim. He was not a good man who made a mistake. He was a predator who had been waiting patiently for his opportunity to attack. "You are right about something, Michael," I said with a calm voice that even surprised me. I was weak, I was compliant, but that ended today. I turned to Robert. I want to file all possible charges, civil and criminal. I want to recover every cent of my money, and I want them to face the legal consequences of what they did." The arrogance on Michael's face turned into shock. "You are not serious." Robert opened his briefcase and took out several documents. "Oh, she is very serious. I have here a civil lawsuit for $300,000 plus interest and damages. I also have a criminal complaint for fraud, obtaining money by deception, and conspiracy to commit additional fraud, and we have all the necessary evidence to proceed." Jessica finally exploded. "This is ridiculous. You cannot do this to us. We are your family." She got up from the sofa with her fists clenched. "You gave us that money voluntarily. No one forced you. There is no fraud here." Angela, who had remained silent until now, intervened. "You forced her with lies. You told her it was for her grandchildren's education. That is fraud by definition." Besides, continued Robert, taking out more papers, "we have the recording where you yourselves admit that there was no educational trust, that you planned to use the money for yourselves, and that you also conspired to strip Rose of her properties through more deception. This is not a difficult case to prove. It is quite simple, actually." Michael approached me with an expression that tried to be pleading, but could not hide the underlying rage. "Mom, do not do this. Think about the children. Do you want your grandchildren to grow up knowing that their grandmother put their father in jail? He was using those children once again as a shield. Your children will grow up," I replied with a firm voice. "And someday I am going to tell them the truth about what their parents tried to do to me. And they are going to understand that defending your dignity is not a crime. Stealing from your own mother is." Jessica changed tactics. Her eyes filled with instant tears. "Mother-in-law, please. We made a mistake. We admit it. But we can fix it. We can return the money. Everything. Just give us time." Robert shook his head. "It is too late for that. You already spent a large part of the money. The new $50,000 car, the reservations for Europe that cost another $30,000, the designer clothes, the jewelry. Where are you going to get $300,000 to return?" "We can sell the car," said Michael, desperate. "We can cancel the trip. We can make payments. Please, Mom, do not destroy your own family for money." I laughed without humor. "I destroy my family." "You destroyed this family the day you decided to view me as a source of money instead of as a human being who loved you. You turned me into your victim. I am just defending myself." Robert began to explain the legal process. "Rose will file the civil lawsuit today. The judge will issue an order freezing all your accounts until the case is resolved. We will also request the seizure of the car and any other asset bought with the defrauded money. As for the criminal charges, that depends on whether Rose decides to proceed. But I warn you that with the evidence we have, a conviction is practically certain." Freezing accounts. Jessica paled even more. "You cannot do that. We have expenses, commitments, the children." Angela interrupted her coldly. "You should have thought about your children before stealing from their grandmother. You should have thought about the consequences before planning to leave her with nothing. Actions have consequences." Jessica welcomed to reality. Michael looked around like a cornered animal looking for an exit that did not exist. Okay. What do you want? What do we have to do so you do not file those charges?" His voice had lost all arrogance. Now it sounded small, scared. "I want my money back. The full $300,000 in my account. This week," I said without hesitation. "It is impossible," he whispered. "We do not have that much money available." Robert shrugged. "Then you will have to get it. Sell the car, ask for loans, mortgage what you have. It is not Rose's problem how you get it, just that you do it. And also I want you to sign a document where you renounce any future claim on Rose's properties. Never again will you be able to touch her house or her land." And one more thing I added, feeling how my voice became stronger with every word. "I want you to tell the truth to the whole family, to your aunts and uncles, to your cousins, to your grandparents who are still alive. I want everyone to know what you tried to do. I am not going to allow you to paint me as the villain of this story." Michael shook his head repeatedly. "They are going to hate us. They are going to cut all contact with us." "Well, I said, crossing my arms. Then you will know how it feels to be rejected by your own family. Maybe that will give you perspective. Jessica dropped onto the sofa crying now, without control. But I no longer felt compassion. I had seen her true face. These tears were just another manipulation, another desperate attempt to move me. It was not going to work. Robert continued with the details. You have until Friday to deposit the $300,000 in Rose's account. If you do not do it, we will proceed with all charges Monday, first thing. The car will be seized tomorrow as part of the evidence of fraud. The reservations for Europe obviously remain canceled. And you are going to sign the rights waiver documents today before leaving here. How are we going to get $300,000 in 3 days? Yelled Michael with desperation. I do not know, and I do not care. I replied with a coldness I did not know I possessed. Maybe ask for help from Jessica's parents, those who are supposedly so united and generous. Or maybe get a loan. Or maybe sell things. What you do is your problem. My only problem is recovering what is mine. Angela approached and put a hand on my shoulder in sign of support. And while you look for how to get the money, remember every night how you laughed at her, how you called her an idiot, how you planned to leave her without a roof over her head. Maybe that will give you the necessary motivation to comply. Her words were harsh but necessary. These two needed to understand the gravity of what they had done. Robert took out the rights waiver documents. These papers state that Michael and Jessica permanently renounce any claim on the house located at this address and the 2 lots registered under Rose's name. This is irrevocable. Even after her death, these properties will not form part of Michael's inheritance. Sign here, here, and here. He pointed to the lines with his pen. Michael took the pen with a trembling hand. Mom, please do not do this to me. I am your son. He looked at me with eyes that sought the compliant woman I had always been, but that woman had died the day I heard his truth from the other side of the door. Sign, I said simply, and he did. Jessica also signed, her tears staining the paper. Now, said Robert, putting the signed documents in his briefcase, let's make something very clear. If you try to approach Rose to intimidate her, manipulate her, or threaten her in any way, that will be additional evidence for criminal charges. If you contact other family members to pressure her, that will also count against you. Your best option is to get the money deposited and pray that Rose is merciful. And if we do it, Michael asked with a hoarse voice, if we return all the money, will you not file the criminal charges? I looked at him for a long moment. Part of me, that part, that was still a mother, wanted to say yes. But another part, the part that had learned a brutal lesson about human nature, knew that would be a mistake. If you return the full money by Friday, I said finally, I will not file criminal charges, but I am going to keep the civil lawsuit on file in case you ever try something similar, and our contact from now on will be minimal and supervised. What does that mean? Asked Jessica, wiping her tears. It means I explained with pain in my chest that I am not going to pretend we are a happy family. I am not going to go to your dinners. I am not going to celebrate holidays with you. You broke something that cannot be repaired. As for my grandchildren, when they are old enough to understand, they will decide if they want to have contact with me. But I am not going to allow you to use me to continue manipulating them. The silence that followed was absolute. Michael and Jessica looked at each other, the reality of their situation finally penetrating their minds. They had lost. Their perfect plan, their masterstroke had collapsed completely, and now they faced the consequences of their greed. Robert handed them a copy of all the documents. You have my number. When you deposit the money, notify me immediately. And remember Friday at the latest, not a minute later. They got up to leave, defeated, destroyed. Michael stopped at the door and looked at me one last time. For a moment, I thought he was going to apologize that maybe some humanity remained in him. But what he said was, "This is not over, Mom. You are going to regret it." Robert immediately took out his phone. "Thank you for that threat. It was recorded. Now I have more evidence in case I need it." Michael left, slamming the door. Jessica followed him in silence. When the sound of their car faded in the distance, my legs finally gave way. I let myself fall into the armchair while all the weight of what had just happened hit me like a wave. I had confronted my son. I had destroyed any possibility of reconciliation. I had chosen my dignity over my family. Angela sat next to me and hugged me while I cried. They were not tears of regret. They were tears of grief. I was mourning the death of an illusion, the loss of a son who perhaps never existed, the way I believed. "You did the right thing," Angela whispered to me. "You were brave. You were strong. I am so proud of you." Her words comforted me, but they did not fill the void I felt in my chest. Robert explained the next steps while preparing more documents. "I am going to monitor their accounts. If they try to move money or hide assets, I will know. I am also going to contact some of my colleagues to make sure they cannot get loans using your properties as collateral. You are going to be protected, Rose. I promise you." I nodded, grateful to have someone on my side who really cared about my well-being. The following days were the strangest of my life. My phone rang constantly with calls from unknown numbers that I did not answer. Messages arrived one after another, some pleading, others threatening, all desperate. Michael wrote me entire paragraphs, alternating between empty apologies and accusations of being a cruel mother. Jessica sent me photos of my grandchildren with manipulative messages. "They ask for you. You are breaking their hearts." But I stood firm. Every time I felt my resolution wavering, I listened to the recordings again. I listened to their laughter, their contempt, their plans to leave me with nothing. And I remembered that it was not me who had broken this family, it was them. Angela stayed with me those days, ensuring that I ate, that I slept, that I was not alone with my destructive thoughts. Wednesday night, Robert called me with news. "Michael is asking for loans everywhere. He contacted 3 different banks. All rejected him when they saw his financial situation. He also tried to sell the car, but since it is seized, he cannot. He is desperate." There was a satisfaction in his voice that normally would have seemed inappropriate to me, but now I understood. Justice sometimes feels good. Thursday afternoon, my phone rang with a number I recognized, Jessica's mother. I hesitated before answering, but finally I did. "Mrs. Rose," her voice sounded tense. "I am Jessica's mom. I need to talk to you." I prepared myself for another session of manipulation. "Tell me." There was a long sigh on the other end. Jessica told me everything. Well, her version at first. But I am not stupid. I called other people. I asked questions. And I think I know the truth. And I asked cautiously. And I want you to know that I am ashamed. Ashamed of my daughter, of what she did. If I had known she was planning something like that, I would have stopped her. Stealing from one's own family, especially an older lady, is unforgivable. Her words surprised me. I expected defense, not condemnation. My husband and I have decided to help pay the debt. Not because we approve of what they did, but because it is our grandchildren who are going to suffer if their parents go to prison. We are going to contribute $100,000. Michael will have to get the rest. "I appreciate your help," I said sincerely. "But let it be clear that this does not erase what your daughter and my son did. I am not being cruel." "I am being fair." Jessica's mother sighed again. "I understand completely. If someone did this to my mother, I would react the same or worse. I only ask that when this ends, if possible, do not completely close the door with the children. They are innocent in all this." That conversation gave me some peace. At least there was one more person in this mess who understood the gravity of the situation. Friday morning at 10 o'clock sharp, Robert called me. "Rose, a deposit just entered your account. $300,000 exactly." I felt something in my chest relax for the first time in weeks. My money had returned. Not everything was lost. That afternoon I kept my word. I did not file criminal charges. But I kept the civil lawsuit on file as a warning. Robert made sure all legal documents were in order, protecting my properties forever. Michael and Jessica had learned an expensive lesson that stealing has consequences even when you steal from your own family. The weeks that followed were of adjustment. The extended family found out about everything, not because I told the story, but because they themselves started asking questions when Michael and Jessica stopped appearing at family gatherings. Some supported me unconditionally. Others thought I had been too harsh. Some tried to mediate to convince me to forgive. But I had learned that forgiveness does not mean allowing them to continue hurting you. The grandchildren were the hardest part. I thought of them constantly wondering if they missed me, if they understood why their grandmother no longer went to visit them. But I knew that someday when they were older, I could explain the truth to them. And they would decide for themselves what kind of relationship they wanted to have with me. Until then, I had to protect myself. Angela became my chosen family. We shared dinners, walks, movies. She introduced me to her group of friends, all older women who had lived their own battles and betrayals. I found in them a sisterhood I had never had. I learned that family is not always blood. Sometimes it is the people you choose who choose you who stay when everything collapses. Robert became more than my lawyer. He became a trusted friend, someone who helped me reorganize my finances, to make a real will that protected my wishes, to plan my future with clarity. "You have recovered your power, Rose," he told me one day while we signed the last documents. "Many people in your situation never do. They remain victims all their lives. But you decided to be a survivor." 6 months after the confrontation, I received a letter. It was from Michael. I opened it with trembling hands, not knowing what to expect. The letter was short. "Mom, I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I know I destroyed something that cannot be repaired. Jessica and I are in therapy, trying to understand why we did what we did. I do not expect you to believe me, but I needed you to know that finally I understand the magnitude of my betrayal. The children ask for you. I have started to tell them the truth adapted to their age. Someday when you are ready, if you are ever ready, I would like to try to rebuild something, even if it is just being able to talk to each other civilly. But I will understand if you do not want to. With love and regret, Michael." I read the letter 3 times. I looked for signs of manipulation, of falseness. Maybe it was there, or maybe not. I no longer trusted my ability to distinguish sincerity from acting when it came to my son. I put the letter in a drawer without replying. Maybe someday I would be ready. Maybe I never would be. And that was okay. What I did know was this: I had recovered my dignity. I had protected my heritage. I had shown that even at 66 years old, even after being betrayed by the person I loved most in the world, I still had the strength to get up and fight. I had become my own heroine, and that I discovered was more valuable than any forced reconciliation. I sat on the patio of my house, the house I had been about to lose, surrounded by the plants my husband had planted years ago. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. I took a sip of my tea and smiled. It was a small smile, still touched by sadness, but it was real. I had survived. I had won. And my future, for the first time in a long time, belonged completely to me. If my story serves for something, let it serve to remind all mothers, grandmothers, women who give everything for their families. Your generosity should not be confused with weakness.